It is my pleasure to introduce to you Sid Haas from LKCS. Great guy. Love this guy. You're in for a good hour. So take it away, Sid.
Perfect. Well, with that introduction, that's great. So thanks for joining us today. I can talk about anything. So we don't necessarily need to stay focused on all of these slides. So please feel free to ask questions that are of concern or relevant to your banks. As we proceed through the presentation. But obviously, today's focus is going to be on marketing and communication efforts, to keep customers informed. And, it's no surprise that these are obviously unprecedented times that we're all living through. Nobody's seen anything like this. Nobody's experienced anything like this before. And none of us know exactly what's coming next. But we do know that consistent communication, with customers has never been more important. And the other thing that, is they need that and they want that communication from you. But obviously there's appropriate communications and inappropriate communications. So we're going to talk about that and, best ways to accomplish that. I think first off, the opportunity for banks is to obviously share your expertise. And, your bank leaders, all of your professionals at the bank, you're your community's financial services expert. And I think that's really important because within your community, you are seen as that expert. And money is a highly emotional subject, right? We know that. But health and money are the two greatest sources of stress in your customers' lives right now. I'm not sure which is the highest stress point. It probably depends on that individual customer. But you can certainly help with one of those two. And financial education is going to improve your customer's state of mind. And by providing that, you're going to make your customers more loyal to your bank. So what we're focusing this presentation on is how to deliver timely, relevant, meaningful content to your clients, to your customers, to keep them up to speed and bring them up to speed on important topics. And those topics today are changing very rapidly, especially for businesses, right? And we have to be honest, right? We don't know everything. Like I said already, we don't know what's coming next. So it's completely okay to say that we don't know things. And it's also okay, and banks struggle with this, to lead customers to appropriate resources, even if you can't help them directly. Because what we want is customers to come to us first. Even if it's a product or a service or, a question that we can't answer, that we can't help them with, we can say to that individual customer, to that client, you know what, this isn't something that I can do for you, but here's somebody that might be able to help. And just by doing that, they know that they can come to you with that next question or that next need. So you might not be able to help them today, but they know that you might be able to help them tomorrow. And if you don't know the answer to a question, tell them that and let them know you'll find an answer for them and just get back to them. We're going to talk about follow-up some more, but if you tell a customer that you don't know the answer and that you'll try to find it for them, even if you can't find it, get back to them and let them know, hey, I don't have that answer for you. I tried to find it. And then obviously, if you can find it, answer that. And we have to think of digital first. I think one of the key lessons that all businesses are going to learn from this pandemic is that success depends on the digital solutions we've implemented in all areas of our operations. So increase your investments in those digital solutions. we're all working from home, or at least many of us. Not that many people, or 90% of US adults are working from home. Many are going to stay at home. They're not going to be returning to the office. Those digital solutions that our companies have put in place are allowing us to do that. Your customers are depending on those digital solutions that you have to do their banking, to have those communications with you at the moment. The quality of those digital solutions is what's separating you, and how customers are judging you compared to those other companies, those other banks, that are out there, those other financial services firms that are out there competing with you. The highest quality digital solutions that are out there are critical to your continued success. You've identified where your weaknesses are over the last few months. After whatever the situation passes, or as it passes, you're going to need to do some serious, internal discussion, have some serious internal discussions to determine where to make those investments. And when it comes to marketing, when we talk about digital first, having a high performing website is absolutely critical. Make your website your top marketing priority. A few bullet points. Obviously, it has to be easy to update and maintain. I'm going to give you some pointers, in a few minutes, what I think, some content that I think you have to have on your site right now. You want to make sure that your website is generating leads and new business for you on a regular basis, a daily basis. You want leads coming in from that website. And then again, knowing how to follow up on those. You want to make sure that your website provides an exceptional customer experience. Because again, that's how customers and prospective customers, you got one shot to make a first impression, and they're judging your business and your bank from that first instant they touch your website. It obviously clearly has to be well designed and easy to use, and it has to be optimized for all of these things: search, social, and mobile. So much of this is, I think, today, common sense, but you'd be surprised how many websites I visit for our customers that don't hit those 5 bullets. And as we go through this presentation, just remember that all of the marketing that you do, all of the communications that you send out, both online and offline, will drive people to your website. You can send out a letter, you can put up a billboard, newspaper ad, make phone calls, whatever it is. Anybody that's interested in anything that you're talking about is going to your website first, which drives back to that point that your website is the most critical piece of your marketing and communications efforts. So here's what I was talking about as far as content that I think your websites need to have today. So if they don't already have this content, add it and improve in these areas, because this is the content that your customers are looking for. Obviously, customers want to know what changes you've made to your operations relating to COVID-19. So all of those policies, your changes in hours, what they can expect when you do reopen your branches potentially, what's changed? What are you doing to keep employees and customers healthy? A whole list of potential FAQs, I think, can be added and updated on a regular basis, just as a COVID-19 FAQ page, or however you want to do it. There's lots of really good examples, that you can find, or I can send you, on all sorts of, different bank websites. Businesses, they're hurting. We know that. Details on different government programs and programs that you might be offering are changing on a daily basis, and those business owners are desperate to keep up. Keep that page updated. We have customers that are updating it several times a day And I think one of the things that you can do that's going to be unique to other, from other banks is offer the option for people to subscribe to email updates. Rather than telling customers, hey, check this page for updates, why don't you let them subscribe so that whenever you make a change, they're going to get a notification by email. That is actually easy to do today. It's not a difficult thing. And think of the convenience to that business owner, knowing that whenever you do make a change to that page, they're going to know about it because they're going to get an email and then they can go check that page when they have time. Financial hardships, anybody that's obviously affected, by the coronavirus, they can go onto the site and see what's changed, explain the CARES Act changes to IRA accounts, to loan repayments, what programs you're offering, all those things. Make it easy for people to find. Don't make them have to go on a little, a scavenger hunt to find that information. The bottom three are good, regardless of the COVID-19 situation, but I think they're even more important now. For forms, applications, I think appointments might be more appropriate now, but don't make people come into the bank just to fill out a paper form. Building web forms and applications is easier now than it ever has been before. You can actually do it yourself. There's tools that we can provide, that I can show you, that you can subscribe to yourself, that allow you to build online forms without any programming, completely secure, all of that let your customers fill out anything just like they would a paper form. Give them that ability to schedule appointments or online meetings with you. Have that integrate right with your calendars so they'll know exactly who they're going to be meeting with and know that that person is available. It fits their schedule. There's awesome tools out there to do it, and it's not expensive. Calculators, there's tons of high quality calculators that you can buy out there. You don't have to build these yourself. For budgeting, debt consolidation, mortgage refinance, small business, retirement planning, you name it. There's a ton of small business calculators out there that you can provide as resources for your customers to use to help educate themselves, to start doing some of that planning themselves. We find that when you provide these types of calculators, that your staff will actually start using them with customers that they're having conversations with. And this last one is so important because we see it all the time. You want to make sure that whatever page a customer visits is not a dead end, meaning that there's always a way for a customer, a visitor on that page, to take some sort of action. Have a contact form. Have a way for them to submit an application. Give them some way to contact you or do something electronically. Because if it's a dead end page, they're not going to come back. They're going to go to a competitor. I completely understand that you're not going to be able to have them open up every account online. That's just not realistic today, for most banks. But at least give them a way to say, hey, I'm interested. Can you give me a call? Can I send you an email? Can I fill out this form? Can I do something? Because I'm at home, and I'm surfing the website at whatever time of day it is or time of night, and I want to take action. And make sure that you give them a way to do something. It's really, really important. And one more critical thing, because it's just so easy right now, your CEOs, your boards, they're looking at cutting expenses, and they're going to cut marketing. Don't do it, or try not to. Here's a great story, and this is, it's well documented. Go out there and find articles on it. But Post cereals and Kellogg cereals before the Great Depression, Post was dominant in breakfast cereals. They had to cut costs going into the Great Depression, just like every other business. But they were comfortable that they would maintain their leadership position. They were not worried at all about that. So they sharply reduced their marketing budget. Pricing was about the same for both brand cereal, just like pricing is the same between you and probably most other banks and credit unions that are out there right now. Kellogg's was viewed as a small rival. They were much, much smaller at the time than Post. But they decided they made a completely different play. They devoted as much of their resources as possible to increase marketing heading into the Great Depression. Their marketing led more people to buy Kellogg's cereal just to try it. And the thing is that those people liked it. They may not have liked it more than Post cereal, but they hadn't tried it before. And after the Depression was over, they continued to buy Kellogg's cereal. Kellogg's took the lead over Post as a direct result of their increased spend in marketing in the 1930s. And since then, Post has never caught up to Kellogg's. I think that's a tremendous story. As you communicate with your customers, you need to make sure to be relevant and personal. Too many of the communications that I see from banks that I have accounts at is what I call spray and pray marketing. They're sending out the same message to all of their customers. It's not appropriate to everybody that they're sending it to. I'm getting messages about business accounts. I don't own our company. I have no ownership position in a small business, but I'm getting communications about that. As an example, your goal should be to communicate and reassure customers on a one-to-one basis. Now, I'm not expecting that you're going to be able to call every customer, personally, or contact every customer personally, but I'll show you how you can kind of split up, those customers into different groups. People want to hear that you're there to work with them directly together through things that they're experiencing and show empathy and compassion for them. You need to segment your customers, and because that's really key. You need to show that you know each of your customers, and you're not going to communicate. You're going to communicate with them differently based on what you know about them. Segmentation doesn't have to be difficult. So start with just commercial versus retail customers. Then look at your data. You have a ton of information on every customer. You just have to use it. So here's some ways that you can do that. I'll give you just a few examples. There's a ton. And it really just depends on how easy or difficult it is for you to access some of this information. But feel free to, call me, email me, ask me questions during this presentation, and we can talk about lots of different ways that you can target messaging. So one of the easy ways that you probably have to start segmenting your customer base is by age. And if you look at people's ages, age, and separate customers into different age groups, they're going to have different needs based just on age alone. For example, as you can see here, a pre-retirement boomer has very different financial needs than that younger millennial that either may have lost his or her job or has a job but doesn't have any money saved, for that rainy day that's coming right now. And maybe you can consider offering special service hours for the elderly and communicate that differently. So that's just one example of just using one little tiny piece of information to segment messaging. You can look at deposit balances, communicate differently with those low deposit balance holders versus people that have a significant balance, with you. And possibly look at changes in account balances, compared to pre-COVID-19 balance amounts, and reach out to those people that are now in need. Send information about the programs that you have in place. Look at people that are carrying a high amount of credit card debt. And by the way, this information you can purchase. So even if it's not your credit card debt, you can purchase the amount of credit card debt that people have at other institutions. But can show them how they can convert their credit card balances to home equity loans and possibly help them consolidate other debt at the same time. CDs, obviously, a lot of things have changed right now. There's a lot more flexibility with CDs and IRAs than ever before. But let customers know about the flexibility with early withdrawals. For those customers with those higher deposit balances, suggest CD laddering, right? Maybe we don't want that money to leave our institution. Those customers are also struggling with the stock market. Let's suggest ways that we can help. Just a few examples of ways that you can start to segment that customer base. There's tons more. But if you can start to do that segmentation, start breaking these customers up into buckets, then you can have appropriate conversations, through different means with these different groups of customers and stay relevant with that messaging. And as you determine what those messages are going to be, you're going to want to spread those messages out over a variety of media. These are just a few of your options, right? And many of these, but they're not all appropriate today because things have changed due to COVID-19. So you're not necessarily going to be looking at brochures and posters right now. People aren't coming into your branches, right? Search engine optimization is a long-term play. We need something that we can get information out quickly, right? We're probably not going to be looking at promotional items at the moment. We're not going to be looking, at sponsorships. Certainly yellow page ads is probably a bad idea all around, but we're going to start to even be very choosy with the media that we're going to use. Obviously, a lot of digital marketing options and online marketing options are very appealing, but that doesn't mean that you're only going to use digital channels, because that's a trap that I see a lot of companies falling into at the moment. It's easy, it's inexpensive, it is effective, but you still need a mix across all of these channels. Let's look at some of your options. I'll give you pros, cons, and the impact of COVID-19 on each of these channels. And I'll even give you some thoughts on budgeting. So radio is still, out there. It's still an option for you today. You can do some targeting with radio, based on each station's format. Every radio station is going to tell you, by the way, that they're number one in their market, if you haven't heard that. But they will be able to tell you, the demographics of their average listener, of their typical listener. Radio is a local medium, not internet radio so much, although they can certainly target ads on internet radio to your market. But obviously, the typical radio station is a local medium. And radio ads can be produced very quickly. Clearly, radio ads are less expensive to run and produce than TV ads. The cons to radio is that drive times are prime. That's traditional, but it's also in business. Those prime times, driving the cost up at those prime times. I'm not sure why it's saying that. Radio is often background noise, so your ad will need to run often to make an impact. So what I always tell customers is, if you're going to run radio ads, you need to dominate the drive. So dominate those drive times. And ads vanish as soon as they're played. Radio doesn't have a lot of, kind of memory, right? People don't remember things. They might remember a jingle. If it's a really great ad, they might remember a little bit. But other than that, ads kind of disappear into the background. And there's a lot of competition with radio. You know, there's no guarantee that everybody's listening to the same radio station. Today you've got satellite radio, you're competing with music streaming, you know, all of that. And the real challenge, I think, with radio right at the moment, drive times, no one's currently driving. So it's difficult to really determine right now if people are even listening to the radio. I think you've got to do a lot of soul searching and just asking, you know, friends, relatives, contacts that you have, if they're even listening to the radio at the moment. I don't have the answer for you on that one. As you look at budgets for radios, you know, for radio stations, radio advertising, ad production costs are typically free. It can cost between $300 to $1,000 for radio ad production. If you hire out copywriting and voice talent and all of that type of things, typically on the lower end of that production cost range. Airtime costs, the cost to actually purchase the airtime, depends on your market. So it's hard to say, but it's between $500 and $5,000 per week. And you're really going to want to focus on one day part, right? One section of the day, a few hours of a day, and advertise with good frequency. So run at least 3 spots within that day part, Monday through Friday. So talk to your radio ad representative about how to dominate that day part to get the most impact. Let's switch from radio to direct mail. Direct mail is probably going to give you the most accurate targeting of any of the options that we're going to talk about, because you can target mail based on demographics, income, credit criteria, homeowner data, obviously all of your account data. All of that can be used to segment and target direct mail. There's all sorts of mailing list data available for businesses and specialty lists, you know, regarding interests and things like that, new households. So that's not necessarily appropriate at the moment, but hopefully it will be in a few months. Direct mail gives you a lot of room, a lot of physical space to provide detailed information. It gives you the ability to include reply cards and disclosures, you know, all of the things that, you know, you want to include, but obviously don't have the room to include in some media. And you can easily track delivery and response rates from direct mail. Right now, well, in all times at the moment, people are getting too much email. So direct mail has an even higher appeal. And Gen Z in particular, that Generation Z, the younger demographic, loves getting direct mail. Cons to direct mail is postage adds up quickly. Postage is never going to go down, right? You know, so you need to have a well-designed mail piece so that your response rates are high. If you have a well-designed mail piece and a good offer, your mail piece will do well. If not, your mail piece won't, and you're going to be throwing that postage, you know, that postage expense away. With COVID-19, again, 90% of Americans are at home. A walk out to that mailbox is like a vacation. I say that every day when I go out there. It's like I get to walk out of the house. We're receiving less mail right now than ever before, and we're reading it at higher rates. So it's a huge opportunity to send direct mail that most marketers are missing. So I really encourage you to try direct mail over the next couple of weeks. Direct mail costs can vary by quantity. They can vary by list source, obviously by the physical specifications of the mail piece, and how it is mailed. But to give you an idea, we obviously print and mail at LKCS. So the cost to send a full color personalized letter is about $1.30 a piece, and that includes everything. So everything from design all the way through printing, you know, inserting, postage, everything. So actual costs are going to vary. I can always get you a firm estimate, but for budgeting purposes, that's a pretty good number. Online advertising, so I'm talking primarily here like, with Google ads. Your ads are visible, obviously 24/7, or can be. You can obviously, limit that if you want to. You can promote multiple products and services to different prospects. So you do have that segmentation capability, and we'll talk about that further. But you do also have the ability to test multiple ad designs and messages. You have very flexible budgeting because you can set preset limits both per day and per campaign, and the results are extremely measurable. You'll know exactly how many ads were delivered, how many were seen, how many were clicked, and you can do retargeting, which we'll talk about further. The cons are that there's significant competition that exists for some keywords because, and we'll talk about what that means, but you're advertising for search terms. So if somebody's searching for terms relating to mortgage loans or refinancing, things like that, those types of words are typically going to cost you more, especially in busier markets, in suburban or urban markets, than they would in some rural markets. There are a lot of options on how you set up campaigns and how you manage campaigns. And if you're not familiar with it, they can get complicated. The success of any online ad campaigns relates directly to the quality of your website and the website's landing pages, because each of those ads are going to drive people back to your website like we talked about. So if the website is subpar, then you might want to rethink what you're doing with online advertising. And obviously people can ignore ads or avoid clicking on them. The benefit to online advertising right now is because advertisers are cutting back their expenses, ad costs are currently lower than they have been, while search and social media activity is higher. So you can get a much higher bang for your buck by doing online advertising now than in the past. So a little bit more on search engine advertising. Pricing is based on what you're willing to pay, either per impression, which is ad display, like per ad displayed, or per click. We typically recommend per click, by the way. But ads are shown to people that are actively searching for those keywords, and search terms that match your interests, that match, your products and services. That might be your company name, brand names, the products and services that you offer, or what we call long-term or long-tail keywords, which is essentially like people's needs and actions. So they might be searching for fast mortgage loan approval, or open a checking account in Springfield, lower my credit card payment. But you can have ads that target these types of terms. And then obviously drive people to pages on your website or specially designed landing pages, that are designed to give them the information that they're looking for and drive them to take action with your bank. And it's all, limited geographically and, making sure you're advertising only to people that you want to. It's an auction. So the more you pay, the higher you appear in search results. Basically, ad quality does matter. So the more people that click on your ad will influence that as well. But essentially, it's an auction. So just to show you, this is what paid search ads look like. On Google, they will have the word ad next to them. And below that are what we call organic listings. So these are the search results that aren't paid. They just showed up when I did a search. But for the average person, they're not going to see much of a difference between what's not a paid ad and what is, a paid search result. People will click on those ads. There are also display ad options. So unlike search ads, display ads are graphical. They're not just text-based like those ads we just saw. Google and Facebook also, by the way, rent small spots on millions of websites where your ads can be displayed. So the graphical ads don't show up on Google itself, but they will show up on other Google properties like YouTube, other Google-owned websites, and they'll show up on millions of other websites. And you can target these display ads by age and gender and specific interests, and even select individual websites where you want those ads to appear. And the display ads would enable you to do retargeting. So retargeting, you've seen the effect of retargeting whenever you've gone to a retailer or Amazon, or you've looked at a product. So I always say, like, I'll look at a pair of shoes, for example. And I won't buy that pair of shoes, but all of a sudden I'll go to other websites and that pair of shoes will show up there. That pair of shoes seems to follow me around all over the internet. Well, that's retargeting. You can do that same thing with your bank's products and services. So you have a business owner that goes to a page about a small business loan, or a business checking account, or anything like that. And you can have information about your business products start appearing on other websites that business owner goes to over the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, however long you want. So display ads come in different shapes and sizes and formats depending on what websites your customers might be visiting. Easy to set up, inexpensive depending, on, and obviously you can set whatever budgets you're comfortable with. Here's some things to think about. So Financial Brand is a very, reputable blog type site, or, for financial marketers. The average company is spending 35% of their marketing budget on digital campaigns, and that's not enough. They recommended back in 2019 that at least 50% of your marketing budget should be dedicated to digital marketing, and that between a third and half of that should go towards organic and paid search. So if you're not doing any form of online advertising, you should probably look at it. Budgets, again, you can set the budget to be whatever you're comfortable with. Ad production costs are typically included in any agency fees that you would pay if you had an agency set the ads, the ads up for you. Web development costs for landing pages might be additional. So if you needed special landing pages created, if you didn't feel that your website, had the appropriate calls to action in place, then, we could talk about that. But again, advertising budgets can be set. You can set daily limits, monthly limits, or campaign limits. And you can set those bid amounts for your pay-per-click campaign. The average cost per click on Google is $2.32. And that changes, we can tell you specifically for what type of campaign you want to run, whether it's for mortgage loans or business loans or checking accounts, whatever it might be, what you could expect to pay and what we would recommend, as a budget. But just to give you some rough numbers there. Social media marketing. Obviously, there's a massive potential audience. Social media reaches all demographics. It's easy to target different interests. And advertising on social media is very inexpensive, and it's very effective also. So everybody's afraid of reputation risk on social media. They're afraid of getting complaints. While it happens, it's very infrequent. Social media does take time. It does take some dedication. It does take some money. So social media is not free. There's a lot of different social media networks, and you can't be on all of them. To start, we always recommend Facebook to start with. And social media changes quickly and constantly. So it's definitely something you have to keep up with. But when you think about it with COVID-19, there is no better place to publish educational content and talk about community outreach than on social media, because that's where people are. Ad costs, again, are currently lower, while social activity is much higher. There are more people spending time on Facebook right now, and a lot of time, believe it or not, than, again, people were doing 2 months ago. It's an outlet for them, and they will find your content and absorb your content there. I want to show you a few posts from PNC Bank. So PNC is obviously a large bank. They've been doing some really neat things on social media without spending a lot of money. So while they have the budget, they don't have to spend it, and you don't have to spend it either to do some cool things. I really like what they're doing, so I want to share them with you. I think these ideas are brilliant. So one thing they're doing, they obviously have a lot of their staff working from home as well. They have their staff working at home, creating videos from home. So I can't play the videos right now, but go to their Facebook page if you're active on social media and look at some of their videos. So this is one where one of their employees is just talking and showing some screenshots about how she sets up email and text message alerts from within their online banking platform. It's not difficult to do. They has a little bit of video editing, but you don't even need to do that. You know, you could literally record a Zoom session, you know, or something like that yourself and post it to social media. They have a ton of these, and they'll be able to keep them out there for a really long time, put them on their website. You know, you can obviously put these types of things on your website and then create your own, you know, how-to video library of all of your apps and mobile banking and online banking, all of those different features. I think it's great. And here's another one. Now, obviously, they have some celebrity endorsements, some paid celebrity endorsements. So this happens to be an IndyCar driver that's reading a book. But what about partnering with your local library that doesn't have a summer reading program right now? Or, you know, asking one of the teachers, you know, can we buy some books for your classroom in exchange for you reading a book once a week, you know, or something like that, and recording those for the kids in your community. I think that's the kind of content that can go viral and people would love and show that you really understand the times right now and you're really involved with the community. So you don't need that celebrity to do this type of thing. I think this content is awesome. Video content on social media is huge. It can be done with a smartphone without spending a huge amount of money. And I think there's a ton of ideas that you can find just by doing some surfing, seeing what other banks are posting out there. Social media budgeting. So I always call social media the $0 billion industry because costs are sometimes difficult to capture because time with social media is spread out in small chunks. So you're not going to sit down and typically, you know, you might write a bunch of social media posts at once, but other than that, you're really going to spend time on social media in small chunks. I think, you know, that you can estimate about 10 hours a week for the average bank. You know, developing social media content and managing your social media sites, responding to comments, things like that. It's not 10 hours straight. You know, it's going to be a few hours developing content and then a few minutes here and there kind of responding to questions and, you know, comments, things like that. You do need a tool for social media publishing, mainly for the monitoring and the reporting so that you don't have to constantly refresh Facebook and, you know, see who's commenting on your stuff. You want to get notified when there's a comment that comes in. And you can budget about $200 per month for a really good tool. And similar to advertising on Google, Facebook ad costs can vary. And you can set your ad budget for each campaign. Okay. Facebook advertising costs about $1 per click. So compared to Google, which was over $2.30 per click. So you can see that Facebook ad costs are lower. Let's talk about email quickly. Email is simple and inexpensive. Obviously provides instant delivery. You can have custom fields and tags that allow you to easily segment your audience and personalize your emails. With email marketing platforms, you automatically comply with all of the anti-spam regulations. And they're very branded and mobile friendly. So your emails will be branded, you know, for your bank. Email should be mobile friendly depending on your platform, but I think all of the platforms nowadays, you know, are mobile friendly. Cons are that we get way too much email. So it leads to lower open rates and higher read rates. And it's sometimes hard to get emails past, especially financially related emails, past spam filters. And because we get too much email, people have what I call disposable email addresses. They're changing their email addresses. So you might have a good email address today, but next month I might change my email address because I'm just getting too much spam from other people. With COVID-19, we're getting more email than ever before. So your content has to be really good and really relevant, and your subject line in particular has to be exceptional. So a lot of the email platforms give you ways to test your subject lines. I highly recommend that you do that because a good subject line will lead to higher read rates. Email is great, and I'm always surprised by the number of banks that aren't sending email messages out. You just don't want to use it as the only communication method. You don't want to overuse it. Email marketing is inexpensive. So price is based on the number of email contacts you have, unique email addresses. So it depends on the size of your bank, but you can spend, as little as $75 a month to send out unlimited emails. Marketing automation platforms are the next generation of email systems out there. It's email marketing's big brother. So if you're already doing email marketing and you're comfortable with email marketing, you need to look at marketing automation, because marketing automation adds automated follow-up. And I've already mentioned it, but follow-up is absolutely critical to all of your marketing efforts. So you can automate follow-up with these automation platforms to automatically follow up on email activity, meaning if somebody reads an email or clicks on an email, you can already have pre-staged content to be sent out to those people at whatever interval you want. You can follow up on web page visits. So if I'm a customer and I visit a page on mortgage loans, you can already have one email or a series of emails pre-staged that if I visit this web page or I visit so many web pages on mortgages or whatever pages are important to you, that those emails automatically get sent out to me. Again, on whatever frequency you want. You can even schedule a phone call with one of your staff members as part of that process. You can automate follow-up on form submissions, even incomplete form submissions, which you don't even know you have. So somebody doesn't fully complete a form, but they've started to provide their contact information. As soon as I capture that email address, even if they don't submit that form, I can now remind them that they were interested in submitting that auto loan application or whatever they might have started to fill out and follow up with them automatically. I can automate event registrations, new customer onboarding. I can track what products and services people are interested in. They might have talked to somebody at the branch. They might have called in. They might have filled out a response card at a hockey game that you were sponsoring or whatever it might be. I might know about life events, right? I might know of a customer whose child just graduated or is about to, get married, anything like that. I can have automated emails, text messages, all sorts of communications queued up in these systems, ready to go for when any of this type of stuff happens. These communications are highly personalized and always relevant. The cons of these systems, as you can see, is there's a lot of content that needs to be developed. All of that takes time and work to get going, and it requires a lot of interdepartmental coordination to think about these things you want to follow up on and get this content developed. And with COVID-19, it's too late to start this right now, right? But this is clearly an initiative worth investigating. When we talk to customers about this type of thing and show them the benefits, it changes the game, right? It changes your way of thinking. We can help implement these types of solutions Just know that it's not something you're going to implement next week. Marketing automation, similar to email marketing, is based on the number of contacts. But then there's additional options such as CRM systems and text messaging and online chat. But these systems start at only about $125 a month. It's really the cost of developing the content that adds on to that. But what's critical with all these marketing efforts and where that really help is that will you currently track what I call opportunities? How do you track forms that are submitted online? How do you track, social comments and questions that come in, from your social media marketing? How do you track emails that come into the bank? How do you track phone calls? How do you track visits and appointments? How do you track what happens to these inquiries from all these different channels? And then how do you make sure that they're followed up on appropriately? Because your marketing is going to lead to all of these things, and it's how you capitalize on those leads that makes the marketing more effective. So here are some initiatives for you post-crisis, right? Once we get through all of this stuff. First off, I think you need to create customer profiles based on customer type, product and service usage, demographics, relationship lengths, channel preference, meaning how the customer prefers to do business with you, all of those types of things, to really put customers into different buckets, different communication buckets. Identify the right time to make personalized recommendations through intelligent analytics, and then follow up through automation. And then focus on demonstrating features, not pushing product. So when you communicate, again, stay relevant. Don't necessarily sell, right? But offer demos and videos to explain how the features of your products will benefit the customer. And that's what I prepared for you today. So what questions can I answer?